I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. Hey, it's Kay from the Literary Apothecary, and here is another Wheel of Time reading vlog. This is for book 2, The Great Hunt, and I hope y'all enjoy it. I really enjoyed this book. My brain's a little bit in the fog today. I'm on post-head cold recovery now. Definitely feeling a lot better, but still got that brain fog, so things are a little bit, you know how it goes. So anyways, back to what we are here for. Today when I went to go get groceries, I started the audiobook for The Great Hunt, book 2 in the Wheel of Time. My brain was entirely confused with the prologue, thinking, like, I knew what was happening, but I had no idea who it was happening to, where it was, when it was. Yeah. There was that, and then, chapter 1, we're back in with the kids and the whole gang, and I thought they were dispersing at the end of book 1, but I guess now they're still arguing about what's gonna happen. Rand is still convinced he has to go off on his own. He's trying to convince Mat that he needs to go to Tar Valon to get rid of the Black Dagger. Yeah, just... And then in chapter 3, Egwene says, like, let's go see the peddler. He's locked up in the basement in jail, and I go see him all the time. So they went to go see him, and he is crazy mad. He's, like, mumbling to himself, saying all of this crazy prophetical mumbo-jumbo, and the boys are terrified of him, and Egwene's like, well, let's hide you in the women's chambers. And that's where we've left it off. This, at least at the start, is going to be a slow read for me, because I have several books I need to read for commitments for my live shows with my authors this month. Plus, I need to finish my carryovers from last month. So I've got a lot going on, and I always forget that February is a shorter month than all the other months. So there's a lot going on, so this is probably going to be a slower read than The Eye of the World, but, I'll get through it. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so chapter 4 in The Great Hunt, we meet some more Aes Sedai, some of Moiraine's friends. And I really like Ayana. Is that how you say it? Ayan? Anaye, I think it is. Someone tell me how to say her name, because I love her. I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about her more, so I need to know how to say her name. The other one, Liandrin, reminds me of Nynaeve. So I'm interested to see where these two Aes Sedai are going. And then we met the Amarillan, who seems... like, the image that I had of her, of course, I met her just through the audiobook as I was driving to the library. So this is just a very brief image that I've had of her, but the image that came immediately to my mind was the Ancient One from the Doctor Strange movies. But obviously with, like, long flowing hair is what I pictured her as. But I'm sure that's nowhere that's correct, but that's how I pictured it. Anyways, that's my update through chapter 4. I just started chapter 5. We'll see if I can get another maybe 1 or 2 chapters in before I have to put this in for the patrons. So more updates from chapter 4, because as soon as I finished hitting end on the last update, I realized, like, there was a lot of stuff we learned in chapter 4 that I didn't update on. So we learned a lot about the prince and princess's family, and Queen Morgase she was one of, if not the first ruler to admit that she had an Aes Sedai advisor. They said a lot of rulers had them, but they wouldn't admit it, and Morgause is one of the first to admit it, and so that says a lot about Morgause, who I really liked in the first book. We've also learned that This was kind of hinted at through Moiraine in The Eye of the World, but we've learned with the other Aes Sedais that Nynaeve and Egwene are actually more powerful than they think they are. They said it's very rare to find young Aes Sedais now that can use and channel the One Power. And to be able to find two in one town, the Two Rivers, is very, very rare. So I am excited to see what's going to happen with those two characters. I think that's about the two things I wanted to highlight from chapter 4. So now I'm going to continue on and see what happens 5. So chapter 5, this will be the last check-in I have for this week. Did I hear the Amyrlin correctly when she said that she wants to hunt down all men, not just the bad men that want to try to use the One Power, but all men? That's a little sus. Yeah. So those are my thoughts so far through the first 5 chapters of The Great Hunt. Thank you all so much for watching again. This really helps me keep track of what's happening in each chapter and trying to really pay attention to some details that I know I should be paying attention to. So, The Great Hunt, chapter 6. Padan Fain escapes. Egwene and Mat have been attacked, knocked unconscious. Padan, supposedly what they, at least Rand thinks, is that Padan Fain let in Trollocs into the gates, and that has never happened before, so things are getting crazy. Moiraine tells tells Rand that he can leave. So things are nuts now, and I think I'm gonna call it a night and try to get some extra sleep, but I'll check in again soon. So a lot of things happen in chapter 8 of The Great Hunt. We learn that, well, back in chapter 7, when we've discovered Egwene and Mat unconscious, we also learn that Mat's dagger has gone missing along with the horn of, I forget what the name of it is called, but the legendary horn that they took away from the Eye of the World in book 1. We also know that Mat can't be separated from the dagger unless it's by an Aes Sedai, which is why he was going to Tar Valon. So in chapter 8, Egwene has recovered from what happened to her. Moiraine helped heal her, but Mat is still unconscious, and they say that he's dying because he's separated from this evil dagger. We also get a lot of information about Tam, who was, if you remember, Rand's father, and we get a lot of information about Rand. He is the Amyrlin's seat says he is the dragon reborn. He's not a pretender. He's not a false dragon. He is the dragon reborn. Rand says, I can't be that. I'm just a shepherd from Two Rivers. But he's so scared of what the true power, the One Power, will do to him and those he loves that he's still set on leaving away from everyone else. He is determined to go off on this hunt for the horn and the dagger to save Mat. We learn we see a little bit of Nynaeve, and we get into her brain a little bit more, and she's like, the Aes Sedai around her say, you're not a wisdom anymore because you're away from Two Rivers. You've been away for so long. You can't really call yourself a wisdom anymore. And so she's going through a little bit of identity crisis there. And we also see this give and pull of her and Lan. They've got this, on again, off again feelings for each other, relationship kind of thing going. Lan knows he has nothing to offer Nynaeve. Nynaeve claims that she doesn't care, but then, she's always confronting him about it. And then Lan gives her essentially his king's ring, and he says, use this anywhere and you'll get help. If you send this to me, I will come directly to you. Tells her about the true power of the ring, and she says she can't accept it. And then, essentially that's Egwene goes and talks to Rand again before he leaves. And she's torn because they had been raised since they were very, very young that they were one day going to be married. They were essentially betrothed to each other, but now she's going to become an Aes Sedai, and he is essentially the male version of it and the Dragon Reborn, and they can't marry. Aes Sedai don't marry. And she claims that she's going to learn how to help him, but he doesn't believe. He thinks that when she becomes an Aes Sedai, she'll just want to gentle him and change him. And so that's where we've kind of left it, I think, at chapter... Oh, also in chapter 8, it's revealed again, kind of, that Moiraine believes that Tom Merlin is still alive, yet she cannot provide proof. This has been hinted at before, earlier in this book, and I think at the very end of book 1. But I think this is the first time it's said outright. And so Moiraine believes that he's still alive, but she can't prove that he's still alive. So we've got that kind of bit of mystery going too. So far, I am enjoying book 2 more than book 1. It feels like the details that we're getting here are more necessary and more justified in the storytelling of this epic story. So I can't wait to see where this goes. So chapter 9 in The Great Hunt, I'm not quite sure who this Daemon character is. Is he good? Is he dark friend? It kind of hints at maybe in the middle. He's got Aes Sedai and he's got dark friends chasing him, and he's got this letter that I feel like he intercepted, and it's talking about him maybe as a dark friend. It's a little confusing on who he is, and I'm not sure if that's on purpose or not by Robert Jordan, but I'm sure we'll find out as I continue to read. So chapter 11 in The Great Hunt, we get some more information about Padan Fain, the long time ago peddler, now dark friend, crazy evil guy. And Stacy will be glad to know that I am no longer a fan of the peddler. I wasn't by the end of book 1, though they'd like to think that I was. So we get into the point of view of Padan Fain at the end of chapter 11, and he's talking about everything that Rand and Mat and Perrin just came across. They're kind of following in, for lack of better words, the footsteps of Padan Fain, following his path unknowingly. They're on the hunt for the dagger and the Horn of Valir, and Padan Fain has, I think, both. Padan Fain is the one that had nailed a Fade, a Myrddraal, to the door, I forget where he was nailed to. And that is one thing that has scared Rand this whole time, because he's like, what could do this? He had no idea what could even hurt a Myrddraal before. And then when we slide into Padan Fain's point of view, it's revealed that he's the one that did it with the dagger. He's got dark friends and Trollocs on his side now, and he's becoming more and more and more dangerous as this book goes on. So I'm up to chapter 15 now in The Great Hunt, and I know I really need to focus on this before next weekend's live show. This will become one of my focus. I'll have 3 main books this coming week that are my main focuses, this definitely being one of them. So far, I'm enjoying The Great Hunt more than The Eye of the World. I feel like Robert Jordan is using all of these details to a better extent in this book than he was in the first book. The last thing I remember reading about was one of the Aes Sedai has appeared at the camp where Perrin and Mat are, and they're looking for Rand. Rand has gone missing, along with Loial and a sniffer, I forget his name. They've gone missing. They kind of teleported, I think, through Rand's dream or something. And no one else knows where they're at. They don't know where they're at. They don't know how to get back. And so there's this big hua about what happened to them, where they gone. And the very last thing in that chapter is Perrin kind of thinking to himself, Rand, wherever you are, stay there because it's safer for you there, because this Aes Sedai is looking for him and he thinks it's nothing but bad news. I'm just going to make a quick note here that if I don't mention a chapter or a particular event or character or whatever in these reading vlogs, especially for those people that are rereading these books with us, just means I don't have a lot to add to it. Or maybe I'm waiting till our live show to reveal my thoughts about that. So just wanted to add in that quick note first before we get going. So starting this reading vlog off with chapters 18 and 19. So in chapter 18, Nynaeve and Egwene reach Tar Valon, and they don't reach Tar Valon until the very end of the chapter, so we don't really get to see much of Tar Valon yet, but I'm excited to see Tar Valon and what it's all about, what's all wrapped up in there, because we've heard so much about it through the first book and now kind of half. I think I'm almost halfway through this book. Chapter 19, we're back with Rand and Loial and Hurin and Selene, and they have caught up with Padan Fain and his crew of Trollocs and Dark Friends. They've stolen the Horn of Valier and the Black Dagger, Mat's Black Dagger, back from Padan Fain, and now they're trying to figure out how to hand that off to Mat and Igator, something like that. And so that's kind of where we're at now, and I'll check in again soon. So chapter 23 in the Great Hunt, we are back into Tar Valon, and Nynaeve has been put to a test by the Aes Sedai. So there's this like silver arch that she has to go through, and when she does, she will face her greatest fears. She has to do this 3 times with 3 different fears. The first one she faces is Aginor, who is one of the Forsaken that we met in book 1, The Eye of the World. The second one was people from Emond's Field. She went back to Emond's Field, and they needed her help and she had to leave them. And then the third was Lan in the future, and he said that they were married with kids and she was queen to his king, and he loved her and she had to leave him. And when she left the third arc and came back, I think, as far as I understand it, she's now become an Aes Sedai. The Amyrlin has washed her of Nynaeve from 2 rivers, so that is really interesting. But now I'm really tired, so I'm gonna go to sleep. And definitely, I mean, this is the book that I'm going to be focusing on the most this week. If anything, I'll finish this book. If not, the other 2 books I need to finish, but definitely will be finishing this book. Chapter 24 Chapter 24 of The Great Hunt has us meeting again Elaine and Gawain from book 1, the prince, essentially the heirs. Wow. And Egwene has found fancy with Elaine's older brother, Gadon. So this is all interesting. They speak again of Rand, and Egwene essentially pretends that he's just that shepherd that he's told everyone he is. She doesn't want his secret getting out, and yeah, this is getting interesting. Chapter 25 of The Great Hunt, we learn that Tom Merlin is indeed alive. He's still alive. Rand came upon him while he was going through town. They're now in Caharan, and Rand is kind of waiting for Celine to show up. He was just wandering around town and heard Tom Merlin's voice, and don't you know it, it's Tom Merlin. So he's alive. Moiraine was right, and that makes me so happy. Yeah. So chapter 31, we get Mat and Perrin meet back up with Rand. Also Egotar and Verin. The whole gang gets back together essentially, except for Egwene and Nynaeve, who are in Tar Valon, of course, and Moiraine, who is just off on her own. Lan, we don't know where Lan is, but essentially they're part of the crew is back together, and Rand had to admit to them that he had the horn and he had the dagger, but it was stolen when Dark Friends came and set fire to the inn that they were staying at, and Huron the Sniffer barely made out. Mat barely got him out. Loial had to give up his books in order to get out, which always makes me sad when books are destroyed. So now they're kind of on a journey again with Mat and Perrin and Egotar and Verin. So it'll be interesting to see where this story goes. So in chapter 37 of The Great Hunt, we are now on the hunt for the Horn of Valir and the Black Dagger still. And they use a portal stone to try to chase after Padan Fain. And they see hundreds of different lives that they could have lived. It's kind of the chapter of the what if. What if I did this differently? What if I did that differently? What if I did this differently? And then they arrive at Toman Head, where Fain is supposed to be waiting for them. But they've wasted several months, so now they've jumped ahead in time, I guess. So now they have to find him. And what was interesting about this chapter to me was seeing those different what ifs. We only got very quick glimpses of them, because it kind of like, when they say right before you die, all your life flashes before your eyes. And that's kind of what it was here, but it was different lives that could have been. But that was just such an interesting concept. So I am coming up to the last bit of The Great Hunt. Things are getting really crazy, really interesting. This ending of the book is just absolutely fantastic. Chapter 41, we learn a little bit more about the Aes Sedai. There's different colors, different affinities, kind of, with the Aes Sedai, and they can choose which one they go to. I was under the impression this whole time that they were kind of assigned that based on some kind of personality test or something. Maybe kind of like the Hogwarts house, but not really. I didn't know how they were assigned it, why, but I had the impression that they didn't get to choose which affinity they were at. So if they ended up bad, yes, they were bad, and their choices going forward kind of determined how they would come out, but the initial choice wasn't theirs. But I have since then learned in chapter 41 that they have complete choice over which affinity, which color they go to. And then the end of chapter 41, 42, I think it's 42 to 43, I don't know. After that, we get these other people, the Shaman. These people are weird and crazy. They track down the Aes Sedai, or essentially, maybe not full Aes Sedai yet. Some of them have full Aes Sedai, but basically just women who can channel the power, and they try to leash them with this metal collar that I guess like connects them to the other person, the hunter, and it's really confusing. I'm told by Stacy that it gets explained and cleared up further on. It kind of gets explained as we go on. I understand it enough to be able to read it, but I can't really explain it to y'all because, yeah, my brain is mush right now. So that's going on. Egwene and Nynaeve and Min and Elain have escaped their captors essentially, and they have found Captain Doman, who was the sea captain that helped Rand and Mat and Tom Merlin cross the river back in book 1. So we see him come back again, which is great to see. And he is gonna maybe help them. We're not quite sure yet, but maybe. Yeah, that's where we're at so far. I've got less than 100 pages now to go in this book. I'm hoping to finish tonight. If not tonight, then definitely tomorrow. And yeah, we'll see where things go. I am now up to chapter 44, so coming down to the stretch. So determined to finish this tonight. I'm up to chapter 47 now, and so much is happening, has happened. This is like the Sanderland of Robert Jordan. So Nynaeve and Elain and Min have saved Egwene. Egwene kind of had a mini breakdown once they got the collar off of her. They got new clothes onto her. Her essentially handler, the person that was handling her while she was in the collar, came and found them, and Egwene just let it go. Like, holy cow, she used the collar to inflict so much pain on this woman. She said, they hurt me. All of them hurt me, and she just wanted them to feel that pain. Meanwhile, Rand and Mat and Perrin, Igtar and Hurin have all found the horn and the dagger, and they're doing their thing. Rand swore he saw Egwene, but they convinced him that he could go back for her. They have to escape first. And then Ingtar said that he was the one that shot at the Amyrlin. He's a dark friend, and no matter how hard he tries, he'll always be a dark friend, and he's going to sacrifice himself so the others can get away. So much is happening. I also, while I was just creating this check-in, realized we don't have Loyal anymore. I missed his departure, and I have no idea what happened to him. So that I'm gonna have to go back and find out what happened there, because I absolutely love that character so much, and I just realized it's been a crazy day. But I just realized, like, we don't have Loyal anymore. What happened to him? Where is he? I hope he's okay, because Lord, if he's not okay, I am glad I missed it, but in order to find out what happened to him, I have to go back and see. So that's going to be hard. Okay, so I went back to find out what happened to Loyal, and unless I missed something else, it seems like back when they were still with Varen, before they entered into town, she told him he had to stay back because only a certain number of people could go in with her, which seems very suspect. And that was the last I saw of Loyal. I thought I had missed something because, it doesn't seem right, but let me know if I've missed something else. But I'm up to chapter 48 now. So 47 has a big fight with Rand and Balsamon, and they're blowing the horn of Valir, and Arthur Hawkwing comes, and all of his men come to help fight. Rand is battling Balsamon, and Perrin is fighting alongside Arthur Hawkwing, and it's a grand old battle. It's huge. The very, very, very end of that chapter, Rand starts to hear people's voices. Essentially, like the last bits of wisdom before he risks it all. He hears Lan's voice say, "There will come a time when you want something more than you want life." He hears Ingtar's voice say, "It is every man's right to choose when to sheath the sword." And then we've got Egwene, who is living her life as a Daman, which is like the people that, put the collars on people, I think, if I remember that right. And her essentially image says, "Threads of my life in danger." Egwene, no, this is Rand thinking, "Threads of my life in danger." Egwene, if Hawkwing gets into Falme, which is the town they're in, then he can save Egwene. And yeah, then he continues fighting Balsamon and shoves the sword in Balsamon's heart, and that's where that chapter leaves off. So now I've got maybe 2 or 3 more chapters left, so I'm probably just gonna finish off this book and then I'll have one last check-in. Yeah, because there's 33, maybe 10 pages left, so let me just finish this up and then I'll check in again once I finished. I did it. I finished book 2 in the Wheel of Time, The Great Hunt, and it was a wild ride at the end. Some of our old friends showed up. Moraine, Loyal was back. So glad to see him back. He's just got a special place in my heart. So, of course, Robert Jordan leaves. He wraps the book up nicely, but he also leaves you clues to lead into book 3, The Dragon Reborn. Basically, Rand has to make a decision whether he's going to accept the Shienarans and everyone's oaths to him or leave the world to fend for themselves. Moraine says, look, this is what it is. You got to either accept it or deny it and let the world fight for themselves. You are their Dragon Reborn. You are the one that has to fight for the world. If not you, then there is no one there. So that's kind of where it leaves off. I am so excited to talk about this with Leslie and Stacy and Anita and everyone that shows up for our live show. This was a wild ride of a book. I am sitting at a 4.5 right now. It might be bumped up to a 5-star, but right now it's sitting at 4.5. I really, really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed The Eye of the World, but there was still some times where I got completely lost in it because there's so much going on. And I think that's why I'm going to stay at a 4.5, but who knows? Maybe everyone will talk me into a 5-star during the live show. So that's it for now. Thank you all again so much for watching these, and I love you all to the moon and back.